Welcome to the breakdown, brought to you by PaintballAccess.com. I'm Matty Marshall here, as always with Todd Martinez. All right, so Houston Heat, the big story heading into the end of 2013 was honestly, is Houston Heat even going to have a team? Because they did lose. Now, I mean, I don't want to knock them at all, but that was one of the rumors, was that, okay, well, they lost the three Russian superstars. They lost Konstantin Fedorov, Sergei Shernaiskov, and Mishka Kiesnev. Two guys who are for sure going to have a spot. If there ever is a Paintball Hall of Fame, they're going to be in it. And then another guy who really had transcended his level of play, backing up Konstantin Fedorov and whoever else was in front of him, whether it was San Monville. And those three guys were such potent members. And I would say not only just the potent members for Heat, but if you put any three-player combo together for any team in the past 2 years, I think that you really could make a strong argument they were the best three players comboed up on any given team. They went to Art Chaos. Art Chaos is coming into the league to make things more interesting. And then just when everyone was like, well, God, is Houston Heat going to have a team? What's going on? Houston Heat makes a bunch of statements. First, they pick up Thomas Taylor. Thomas Taylor, longtime excessive member. I played with him from the very beginning. I never thought Thomas was going to leave the excessive fold, but he made the move over to Houston Heat. And then just when we thought that was it and that they were going to ride with the guys that they had, which there was some legitimate talent on that team. I thought Dizon really had a chance to step up. I thought Ryan Smith, I honestly thought, I was like, hey, man, they give that kid a lot more spins. What I've seen him out of there, or what I've seen from him out there, I think that he had a legit chance. Obviously, Nick Sloviak has proved himself in limited shots. Last season, he really had a standout year for, coming off the bench, played great. And then they had Chad George, of course, and Sam Monville. That's a solid lineup right there. But then, Todd, I'll let you break it down. Who did they pick up?
So, Houston Heat has just picked up Tim Montressor, Ryan Moorhead, and Greg Sewers.
Yeah,
so
which is pretty huge, and all from the same team.
Yeah, all from Impact. I mean, just Ryan Moorhead and Greg Sewers alone are just dominant forces on the Dorito side. We watched Greg Sewers with Infamous 2 years ago just tear down, coming out party, just tear down the Dorito side for Infamous, go to Impact the next year, and then all this year, play great paintball for Impact, help get them to the finals plenty of times. We've watched Ryan Moorhead for several years now, from the Philly Americans to Edmonton Impact, dominating that Dorito side as well. I mean, playing against that guy, you just always have to be worried that he is going to be running directly down your throat constantly. We saw him switch over to the Snake side last year, and Ryan Moorhead showed that he can play both sides of the field. He's a versatile player. And then Tim Montressor, one of the best communicators in the game, one of the guys, he was third in the league this year in survivability. I mean, the guy knows how to play paintball. He knows how to communicate. He's a leader. I can't say enough about Tim Montressor, but having those three guys, along with Thomas Taylor going to Houston Heat, talk about retooling, these guys are ready to start this year off.
Yeah, I mean, they're making a big statement to the league. I think just like Impact just made a statement to the league with the pickups that they got. But Houston Heat went a little bit more traditional with their route, whereas Impact picked up Nick Laval and Ryan Martin. You had Houston Heat go with really marketable, big-name pro players who have proven themselves on multiple programs. With the exception, Thomas Taylor's a proven player. He's played on championship team with Excessive, but he's been very loyal. I mean, that you could actually really, that's one of his defining characteristics, is that Thomas Taylor is a loyal guy. So the fact that he really decided to come over to Heat, I think is a big statement. And then also to pick up those three, Tim, Ryan, and Greg. And like you had said, Ryan and Greg are two of the most aggressive guys in the league. And Ryan Moorhead particularly, I felt last year, I felt Greg, he had a pretty good season, but I think that him playing for Infamous in 2012 was his breakout season. Then he signed with Impact. He actually had a pretty terrible final game. I don't know if you're able to go rewatch that final game, but and I love Greg and I really believe in his talent, but he was dying early a lot in that final matchup. But we want to talk about weapons. We talk about that a lot. We talk about what weapons does a team have. We talk about different positions. But when you have a guy like Greg Sewers and you have a guy like Ryan Moorhead, Ryan Moorhead really stood out this year. We saw Impact in a lot of final matchups. They took second at the last two events, and Ryan Moorhead is an aggressive force. Greg Sewers is an aggressive force. Tim is one of those really consistent guys that he's basically the new Sergei. And I think with the way he played for Impact this year, that's a really good fit for Heat,
Yeah.
And then when you put Thomas Taylor in that mix, like how well do you think Thomas is going to play not having to worry about anything else? All he has to worry about right now is just get to the snake.
Yeah.
Get to the snake. And I asked him, well, where do you think you're going to play? And this was before Heat picked up the 3 other players. And he was like, typical Thomas answer, I'll play wherever, it doesn't matter. I just want to do what's going to help the team out. But I think the big story here, or at least the explanation to this move, because a lot of people were like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. You got these guys coming off Impact, and they're going, to Houston Heat, and one big money team to another big money team. But honestly, it is not that complicated. This is a really simple story. The story is San Monville and Chad George live down the street from Ryan and Tim, and they're all best of friends. Yeah. And they, this is where they go to their house to talk about whatever's going on, to watch football, drink beers. I mean, that's their group. And they all live really close together outside of Pittsburgh. And they and then not only that, but, Jason Trojan, who's the coach of Houston Heat, done a great job with that program, 4 wins out of 10 events. Can't argue with that. And this is really the Philly Americans coming back together. So that's the story here. The story is these guys all played together. All those guys, except for Greg Sewers, all played. So Greg Sewers is basically taking Konstantin Fedorov's position on that 2008, I believe, Philly American team. And that's it. That's the story, man. It's just a bunch of best buds that want to play together, and they got a great program and a great owner in Sarge, who's the owner of Houston Heat, who wants to put a winning team together. So he's trying to make the best moves he possibly can and put a good, core group together. And that's the story here, I think. It's that simple. It's not. There's no conspiracy theory here. It's not guys making moves for the money. No, it's just guys wanting to play with their best friends, and that's an often told story in paintball.
And it's cool the way things work out like that. For those guys to have that opportunity. I believe that some of them still work over there at DLX Smart Parts. So now that they're going to be home with their friends, being able to practice together, I think it's going to be a great fit for Houston Heat. And I think Houston Heat's, did a good job. Yaya Boucher is kind of like the GM over there. Putting these guys together.
He's been a great GM for 2 years, man.
Yeah, I know.
He really has.
Year number 1, he gets the Russians, he gets Slowiak, he gets Chad George, he gets all these guys, puts team together, instant winners, win the title, win 3 events.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the season, he was like, you know what, I'm going to go again. I got to go, got my work cut out for me. Goes and makes these moves, gets Thomas Taylor, who, some people may look at Thomas Taylor and think that he's been in the league for a long time and he may not have it. I'm telling you right now, Thomas Taylor is working harder than he ever has. He believes in himself more than he ever has, and he is going to make a difference for Houston Heat. But be able to get those other guys, back playing with your friends, it makes such a difference just to play with people that know you, people that are comfortable with you, and have no problem telling you, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. It's a lot easier, when you have that tight-knit group. For those guys to be able to come together like that again, they've already have experience together. They're going to be able to just be like, hey, remember, it's going to be like riding a bike. Okay, I remember. The only thing that they're missing from that Philly American squad is Jason Edwards.
Yeah.
I doubt Jason Edwards is going to come back from damage, but
Probably
just
not.
having that same core
Considering
group
his
of guys.
brother just left Houston Heat, that's another one, is Jason Edwards' brother, Jacob Edwards, also came off of Houston Heat back to Tampa Bay Damage. So there's a little craziness with Heat back and forth, but there's no way.
They got that good core.
Jason's not coming back, man.
Yeah.
Damage is his home, doing well over there, and now he's got his brother back. But you're right, and that's where Jason Edwards made his name with that Philly. That's when all of a sudden everyone was like, oh my God, Jason Edwards is the man.
Yeah.
That was when he kind of first came up. But yeah, Houston Heat, I really think forced to be reckoned with again this year. I mean, do you think they're? I really do think that they are going to contend for wins again.
Well, it's going to be cool to watch them because, for the past 2 seasons, we've watched a lot of Mishka, Sergei Fedorov, and then what other 2 guys are playing well. Now it's not going to be where Jason Trojan is committed to playing those 3 guys because they're, his 3 best guys and he wants to see who else is hot. Now I think it's going to be a lot more of, let me get the best 5 guys. I have a lot more combinations. Not saying that playing those 3 guys isn't a good thing because obviously they had a lot of success, but being able to use those weapons, use guys in different spots and have different type of players. Yes, Sergei and Tim Montressor are going to kind of fill that same role. Sergei was always just alive, always shooting people on the break, great communicator, great filler. That's Tim Montressor. And now you got 2 weapons. You can even argue that having Greg Sewers and Ryan Moorhead is a little bit more versatile than having a Mishka and a Fedorov, because those 2 guys are both, kind of smaller players. They're both fast. Mishka's been in this league forever. I mean, not taking anything away from Mishka. Mishka's a dominant player. He's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. But he's been playing in the league for a long time. You got guys like Greg and Ryan, these dudes are really, really fast guys. They can use their speed to get away with a lot of stuff. You know, Fedorov was, deceptively fast, but he was blazing. He was everywhere. Now that you have two guys that have that same sort of speed, you can do a lot with the wheels that you already have in Woodley, Chad George, and Ronnie Dizon.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, and that's another one of those names with Woodley. I mean, Woodley had one of the most gutsy performances that I've seen, and I think we mentioned it before actually here in the breakdown. But this kid dove out in the World Cup, dislocated his shoulder completely out of his socket, refused to let the referee pull him off the field, and sat there trying for like 2.5 minutes trying to put his shoulder back into socket and couldn't get it back in. So literally had the ball out of the joint the entire time until everyone got shot around him. And then finally he left the field and then stood up, put his shoulder back in. So he's had surgery on that and he's coming back. So Heat is stacked again. Heat is definitely stacked again. But the questions remain is where exactly is, obviously Thomas Taylor, they're probably going to have him play the snake. But, is he going to play the snake over Ryan Moorhead? I mean, Ryan Moorhead, I thought, played the snake great this year. Are they going to send him back to the Dorito side? Because, Sewers has pretty much been a D-side specialist for a while.
Put those guys together. Yeah. I would put Moorhead and Sewers together every point. Go
really?
ahead.
Just let him just giddy up down that side?
Later. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and then you got Sam Monville. I mean, Chad George. I mean, all of a sudden, Heat has a ridiculous amount of weapons again. And I'm really hoping that they get more spins out of Woodley. I hope when they get more spins out of Nick Slowiak, like to see Ryan Smith get out there a little bit more, because I want to see what those guys can do. We've seen the potential from them, and it's really high. So I think that because, like you said, Trojans not necessarily going to have to ride with just those three Russians, because, I mean, and everyone on Heat knew it. And it was something that we definitely talked about. But I mean, when you would sit down and talk to those guys, it's like, look, I understand that I'm not going to play every single point because, I mean, if you have Mishka, Fedorov, and Sergey out there and they're just dominating, those, it was a full team effort, of course. But I mean, it is what it is. When you look at their kill count numbers and you look at what those guys did out there, I mean, you really, those three guys you could stack against three players on any team in any tournament and put their numbers against anybody for any event in the past 2 years.
And why would you pull somebody off the field that gets you 200 kills?
Yeah.
You just don't do that. Like having Sewers and Moorhead on one side, having Chad George and Ronnie on the snake side. You can use Nick Slowiak in the middle. You can use Woodley on those middle attacks. We saw Trojan use Woodley a lot up the middle on those plays. I mean, you got weapons everywhere.
Yeah.
Guys that can play, again, it's just like we were talking about impact. The versatility of the weapons that you have just gives you so many more options.
Well, I'll tell you what, a team that's probably not going to be lacking in fresh players ready to roll and even with their stars, whoever ends up being the starters for the team and playing the majority of the points. I mean, we could see another dynasty scenario where, Rusty, out of every coach and every team out there, Dynasty was able to utilize, all of their players more than anyone else. I mean, when you look at the points played from Oliver and Ryan Greenspan, and Oliver won the Top Gun title, and Ryan is a phenom out there, and everybody knows it. I mean, he's obviously, if not the best player on the team on any given day, right there next to whoever else, whether it be Ryan or Yosh or whoever it is, it doesn't matter. But they spread it around a lot. Rusty spread it around a lot, and I think that he could do the same thing because they are so deep. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a crazy year, 2014. It's shaping up to be a very fascinating year. So many different teams have a chance to win. Houston Heat is just one of them, and we will keep you updated with all the information that you are going to need to set your fantasy teams. We got fantasy coming at you this year again. It's going to be amazing. But March 14th through the 16th, you want to sign your team up early. Get your team in the fight. Go to pspevents.com. Make sure to like Paintball Access and follow us across all of our social networks and help us spread the paintball gospel, because that is what we are here to do. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Matty Marshall with Todd Martinez. We'll see you guys next time.
How many countries I've visited, how many miles you've traveled,
how many paintballs you've shot at different people,
how much baby powder I've used, how many hotels we've trashed,
how many places I've driven,
how many guns I've gone through, how much I love the game.
It's all the times that you had to tell your family that you couldn't be there for this or that because you were going to play paintball.
How many friends I've gotten out of it.
That's just why I love paintball.
That's why I love paintball.
That's why I love paintball. But that's why I love paintball.
I'm
massive opportunities, both with the sport of paintball and for your business, if we are successful in taking our sport to another level. Unite with Paintball Access in our quest to elevate paintball and broadcast it to the world. There are advertising packages available for any size business. Join us. Advertise with PBA and help us change the sport for the better, forever.